Everyone, another edition of the Ottawa Market YouTube channel. Today we're still continuing our discussion about the the actual competition between the F-35s and the Sweden's Saab Gripen. There's been recent banter about the threat that Ambassador Hoekstra, the U.S. ambassador to Canada, has been levying against Canada, the Canadian government, saying that, well, if the Canadian government does not buy the F-35s, then that's going to have a serious potential impact in terms of future trade negotiations, trying to create a sort of anxiety, not based upon the relative merit of both aircraft, but saying that, well, you don't buy it, you're going to have to, your economy is going to pay. So the question is, how should we, in general, and the Canadian government, and specifically, react to that threat? Should we be persuaded by that threat of the F-35, that we have to buy the Lockheed Martin's F-35, otherwise, we're going to our economy is going to get in trouble, et cetera, et cetera. So my comments are based upon my experience in international relations from the University of Toronto, and also my experience in fascism and authoritarianism, as the Trump administration, as most people are aware of, has been descending into fascism. So the question we need to ask ourselves specifically is, what is the appropriate approach to the type of regime, the type of government mentality that we have in the United States, where we have a government that is descending into authoritarianism in general, and specifically is pursuing threatening conduct as far as annexation. The government has been increasingly bellicose as far as now, it's threatening Venezuela, threatening Greenland, threatened to make Canada a 51st state through economic force. So, so I have a background in international relations and studied, fascism, specifically the German Nazis. So in terms of my insight on this, in my view, we cannot be persuaded by the argument that we need to buy these F-35s, otherwise, we're going to get more and more threats. Because what's going to, so the first lesson we need to reflect on is when Neville Chamberlain, back in, just before World War II, decided that he was going to get all friendly to the Adolf Hitler and started talking, friendly peace negotiation, came back from Europe and started to raise his hands up on a piece of paper saying that he got Hitler to, he got Hitler to change his mind on pursuing a bellicose strategy on Europe. That obviously didn't work. So, and if we look at how Trump reacts to other countries, he seems to be much more respectful of countries like China and Russia that take a relative hard line, and countries that take a relatively soft approach end up being, not being respected at all. So I think that with that in mind, in my view, if we simply buckle to this threat of these F-35s and say that, oh, well, we better buy these F-35s, it's going to, otherwise we're going to get more threats. All that it's going to do is that is going to be, Ambassador Hoekstra is just going to proclaiming victory from that. He's going to convince him that his bellicose strategy actually works, and it's a good strategy, and it's going to make it even worse for Canada in any negotiations with the United States, because now the Trump administration, including Pete Hoekstra, thinks that just basically being loud and aggressive and obnoxious and more threatening, then that will signal to the Pete Hoekstras, that will signal to other people in the United States administration that that's a good strategy threatening Canada, and that it will make things worse Trump will want more. Trump is not going to stop his demands. He's not going to stop being bellicose until Canada is practically annexed and a complete economic colony to the United States. So that's what his end game is. His end game is not trying to cultivate a fair trading relationship as he did in his first term with the Kuzma. That's not his objective. His objective is annexation. So that's what he wants. So basically, the responsible approach, the approach that is going to do better in any negotiations is for Canada to buy the Sweden Gripen, to take that deal, and because by taking that deal, that will signal to Pete Hoekstra, the Ambassador Hoekstra, and U.S. Government led by the Trump regime that Canada is an independent sovereign country. We don't buckle by threats. We don't buckle by an annexationist agenda. In fact, if you try to threaten us with annexation, we are going to turn to allies to strengthen our independence, to strengthen our resilience. So the most logical approach, the approach that is going to strengthen our hand in any negotiation with the United States, is for Pete Hoekstra to be convinced that his bellicose strategy is not going to phase Canada into buckling to his whatever he wants or whatever the Trump administration wants. So the best approach for Canada is to affirm our sovereignty, not to buckle to the fascist authoritarianism of the Trump regime, to stay the course and to pursue the Saab Gripen option, which and I've already outlined the advantages of that option. Job creation, 10,000 jobs. The Swedish government promised. The deal also strengthens and affirms our technological sovereignty. If we buy the F-35s, it's going. The F-35s are is technology controlled by the United States Air Force. So we're basically, it's not really buying them, it's leasing them because they're going to be holding the technological control. So the Saab Gripen will allow us to have the sovereignty over the aircraft, a technological exchange so that we can, a technological transfer which will allow us to reaffirm and to grow and develop an independent aerospace industry, which we had lost when the Avro Aero was canceled. It will start to bring back technological. During the Avro Aero, there was a lot of technological know-how. That came to Canada. That was a technological net benefit, which grew the aerospace industry, and a brain drain was caused by the cancellation of the Aero. So the Saab Gripen deal gives us an opportunity of a technological exchange, as well as even potentially benefits if we take it even a step further and building not only military aircraft, but an independent automobile industry by building cars in Canada that are completely Canadian-made, that are not linked to any sort of American-made or American manufacturing car company. We can build our own completely independent Canadian cars. Sweden is only a population of 10 million relative to our population of 40 million. If Sweden can can create the Saab, and create the Volvo, we can also create our own independent manufacturing car base that doesn't depend on GM, Chevrolet, whatever policies that Trump wants to initiate to destroy the Canadian automobile sector and automobile jobs. We can, the Saab Gripen deal can provide Canadians with a shield, a critical shield in a like-minded country that is offering us an opportunity for job creation, technological transfer, and all sorts of benefits, potentially to spin-off benefits that the F-35s will not offer us. The F-35s only offers us an opportunity of hearing more bellicose obnoxiousness from the Ambassador of the United States and Trump, and more crowing. The first thing that Trump will do, is if he went to buying the F-35s, is gloating and using this as an opportunity of further trying to oppress and repress and destroy Canadian industry and force Canada into doing things that are not into the national interest. So we need to, we need to not pursue that F-35. That's a poisonous deal for Canada. We need to pursue independence. And by pursuing and through the Saab Gripen offer, we are pursuing an independence with a Scandinavian Canada partnership that's going to work for Canada in all ways possible and imaginable. And the F-35s will only work to surrendering us under the thumb of an annexationist, authoritarian society that Trump is trying to create in the United States, that we as Canadians cannot afford to be seen to be under the thumb of these types of dictatorial interests which are seeking to take over the United States. We want to maintain our sovereignty from that. We need to turn our back to this type of fascist rhetoric. We cannot allow ourselves to capitulate to that. We need to affirm our sovereignty, and through Saab Gripen, that's going to affirm our sovereignty. We need to show us a sense of strength, a sense of independence from the rhetoric in the United States, and that's what Saab Gripen deal offers. And F-35s only offers us an opportunity of being sucked into a fascistic, authoritarian environment.